All right. Good morning, everybody. Just let me know if you can hear me okay. All right. Beautiful. Thank you all. We'll go ahead and get started. You can join palms as we begin and repeat after me. I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. I take refuge in the Sangha. Keeping the palms joined. And we can put the palms down. So welcome, everybody, to Intro to Buddhism and Meditation. Thanks for joining us on a Saturday morning. I'd like to get started with a question, usually, just to kind of get people communicating a little bit and give some time for others to settle in before we start the meditation practice. But I think the question I'll ask for today, and you can respond in any way you'd like. If you're new, there's a chat box there. You'll see it. Feel free to type in whatever you'd like. Is how much of your time do you spend, or maybe that's the wrong way to ask it. Well, I'll just say this. Do you feel that your life is more important than others? Yeah, I'll leave it at that. I was going to say how much of your time or how much of your day, but you can respond to that in any way you'd like. But basically, do you spend your days, your mornings, your evenings, your afternoons, your time believing that your life is most important? And I'll go ahead and type that in there. Do you believe your life is more important than others? Yeah. So it's an interesting one because we want to find a balance. Well, I won't say too much till people chime in, but the point is not to think that your life is not important, but also not to see things as your life being more important. So I'll give you a minute just to start with that. I'll be right back. All right. So again, if you're just joining us, welcome. Started off with just a question. to give some time and get people communicating a little bit. Do you believe your life is more important than others? Yeah, it's a simple question, but you can really think about this in many ways as you're going around or about through your day, to just see how much time or how many things you do where you begin to recognize that your life really, in many ways or very often, just revolves around your perceptions, your views, and how so much of our time is catered towards making sure that we are correct, or that we are okay, or that we are taken care of. And again, I think a balance is important, is to understand that you can't neglect yourself, and you can't ignore yourself. And it's important to see the importance of your life. But is there this sense of entitlement, or this sense of kind of feeling that we are more important than somebody else? So something to explore. Let's see. Nope. I am responsible for loving myself most, but need to not let that turn into, oh, there you go, entitlement. Exactly. My immediate response is no, but when I think of it further, I do concern myself more with me than others oftentimes. Lately, I've been giving back to others, and that has unlocked a new paradigm. Yeah, definitely. That's really the practice of generosity. And the Buddha taught very clearly that when we give to others, whatever it is, that takes us out of ourselves. So no, not in general sense, but my life is more important to some. My kids, therefore, need to honor and protect it in efforts to care for them. Yeah, definitely. And again, I think that touches on what I also personally believe is very important, is to understand the importance of family and friends, and taking care of what is around us immediately, which I believe can be done in a very compassionate and kind way, without necessarily thinking that you are more important, or that they are more important than anyone else. I think you can fully care and love for someone, children, for example, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you think they're more important than somebody else. It just means that's where your attention and focus and care and love is, really focused on the most, I guess. I don't want to think so, but the amount of time I spend thinking about and judging myself seems to suggest I'm very consumed with self. Yeah, definitely. And this question geared towards that as well, which is the Buddhist teaching, very simply, is that we suffer because of this great sense of self, where we think the world revolves around us and our views and our perceptions. And because of this, there's a tremendous amount of suffering. So, anything else before we get started with the meditation practice? It's a challenging question in a way, because especially if you've never really explored it, because it does force you to kind of look at how much of your life or how much of your time you do spend focused on you. Even with self-judgments and critiques of the self, these are all really focused on me. So, all right. So I think we'll get started with the meditation practice. A few thoughts may trickle in after, and we can look at those later. But if you are joining us for the first time, again, welcome. And there's a couple things to tell you before we begin. Nothing's going to happen to you. You won't float away. You won't have any mystical, magical experiences. You won't figure anything out whatsoever. The mind that races all day long is not going to shut off. Don't judge your practice, meaning don't ask yourself, is it working? Is it not working? Am I doing it right? Am I doing it wrong? We're just going to sit. We're going to breathe. You'll hear sounds inside the room, wherever you are, or outside. This is life. And so the practice of meditation is learning to get quiet and still within all of that, not trying to escape from anything. So just allowing things to be as they are around you, while we spend some time sitting and breathing. So I will guide us as we begin. We will then settle into a little bit of silence. And finding a position that's comfortable, relaxing the shoulders, relaxing the hands, trying to keep the back straight. Eyes are closed if comfortable, or slightly open. Mouth is open or closed. We'll start with taking 3 deep breaths slowly. And eventually, you'll settle into a natural rhythm of the breath. Knowing throughout the practice, you'll hear sounds inside the room, sounds outside. These are not distractions, not disruptions. Simply what's happening around us as we sit. Noticing the mind as it wanders, jumping from thought to thought. We'll start with gently guiding the attention, focus to the stomach or chest. Breathing in, feel them rise. Breathing out, they fall. Simply going to continue this practice, observing sensation of breath, expecting nothing but to sit and breathe. As the mind wanders, lost in thought, recognize it, release that thought, return attention, focus to the breath. Where's your mind? Lost in thought. Release that thought. Return attention, focus to the breath. Letting go of expectations, letting go of judgment, just sitting, breathing. Breathing in, follow breath in. Breathing out, follow breath out. keeping the mind alert, aware of each sound. Each thought, each physical sensation, yet concerned with nothing but sitting, breathing. And with the body still, rested, and the speech quiet, aware of all sounds, and the mind learning to settle, know what it's like to just sit and breathe. Knowing with each breath, there's nothing else to do, nowhere else to go, no one else to be. Everything beautiful, just as it is. Sitting, breathing. And once again, taking 3 deep breaths slowly. And as you slowly open the eyes, slowly begin to move. And most important, with the practice of meditation, is to recognize how you feel now, immediately after. Compare this to how you typically feel throughout your day. Recognize the difference, if there is one. Ask yourselves how you prefer to feel every day for the rest of your life. And know that however you feel now, if it's quiet, calm, and still, or a busy mind, racing mind, whatever you're sitting with, has nothing to do with anything I said. It's nothing to do with how you sit and hold the hands or cross the legs. Nothing to do with the sounds around you or anything else for that matter. It has everything to do with your own mind and your own mind's reaction to an external condition. This is what the Buddha called pratitya samuppada, means dependent origination. This is the basis of the Buddha's awakening. The word Buddha simply means awakened. He was a human being, no different than any one of us, who began to understand why he suffered, why he got angry, sad, depressed, stressed, anxious. He began to understand the causal relationship of all phenomena. And what that means, very simply, for all of us, regardless of where you come from or what you believe in, where you think you're going, your whole life is filled with things that happen. You react. More stuff happens, more reactions. That's it. This practice of meditation is learning what it's like to respond to something quietly, peacefully, still. Because for most of us, the way you responded to the last 20 minutes is quite different from how you respond to anything else that's happening throughout your day. So all we're working on is closing the gap to where the way you feel now is closer to how you feel always. Just as driven, motivated, productive, successful, whatever that means to you in your respective lives. But with a mind that's steady, clear, focused, distracted by nothing, disturbed by no one. It's not an easy practice. It's not necessarily a fun practice, but it's free. Sitting, breathing, becoming aware of what you think, what you say, and what you do. Often we turn to meditation to try to escape from daily life, problems, stresses, pressures. But meditation is really about waking up to things as they are. The mistake often made is people think there's their daily life and then there's a meditation they need to go do. But for me, the practice is learning that every moment of your life is your meditation practice. It's simply a concentration and focus on the present moment and seeing things as they are. It's not planning, it's not judging, it's not escaping, it's not sleeping, it's not taking a break. It's being with things as they are. And if we can learn throughout our entire life to be with things as they are, then all the reasons most people come to meditation, stress, anxiety, fear, worry, sadness, depression, anger, whatever it might be, all these things that drive people to meditation would cease to exist because we are present with life as it is. But when we sit with life as it is and we say, I don't like this, then we get sad or angry. I miss this person, then we get sad or angry. I wish they would do this, then we get angry or depressed. So this constant judgment and critique of life as it is. Therefore, people try to run away from life and think meditation is what they're going to run to fix it. When in reality, it's just bringing you back to the present moment and saying, this is it now. Life is like this. One of the names of the Buddha is Tathagata. It means suchness, things as they are. And that's the practice, to be with things as they are. And most people are absolutely terrible at that. We don't like the way the food's prepared. We don't like the way the clothes look on us. We don't like the color of our car. I mean, think about it. You go to buy a car. Oh my gosh, how much time is spent determining what color you want? You go to a car lot and there's like 1,000 cars out there and they're exactly the same. But we want a certain color. And I'm not saying individuality and expression. I'm not suggesting these things are wrong or bad. I'm just using it as an example to show you that because we have this mind that discriminates and likes versus dislike and wants versus not wants, as opposed to just saying, I'll take any car in the lot that will get me there safely. That would never happen. So, all right, I'll stop there. I'll go ahead and just turn it over to questions, meditation, Buddhist practice, anything you're sitting with that I can address. If you are new to joining us, thank you for being here. I'd like to use the rest of the time always to respond to questions, meditation, Buddhist practice, anything that you have, just go ahead and type your question there on the screen and I will respond. Sorry, I had a message came in I had to respond to. Thoughts, questions, meditation, Buddhist practice, anything you're sitting with. Hi, Benton. I always smile when I see your name pop up there. Thank you for being here and reminding us to be steady during this season when it's tough to be away from family and friends. Yeah, it really is. I know you've heard me talk about this a lot, that pandemic or no pandemic, we always have stresses and pressures and challenges in our lives, but none of those have gone away. And if anything, many of them have just intensified. And on top of that, we're in a time where we're really just hopefully being safe and isolated from a lot of people. So, unless you have or live with your immediate family around you, this is a time where so many people are not going anywhere. And the holidays are a time where we're usually with family and friends and loved ones. And, again, I come back to the meditation practice being about sitting with things as they are. And what that means is the way things are right now are really unsafe, unhealthy, and very much creating conditions where one could be sad and lonely and depressed and things like that. And it's an opportunity to practice to, be grateful for all that we have in our lives, that even if we can't see someone or share it with someone in person, or we can't hug them or whatever it might be, that we really try to find gratitude in ways that maybe we weren't able to do before. So being away from family and friends is very difficult, but let's just all try to stay healthy and stay alive. So when it's safe and okay, ourselves and family and friends are all there to be with when the time comes. So, and that's the importance of Sangha, of community, is to really create a way. And for us and many sanghas around the world, it's through this virtual setting, which I think most will tell you it doesn't replace being together physically, but again, be with things as they are, and this is what they are, and this is the best we can do. So for me, even just seeing a list of names on the screen is really nice to see. Would I much rather be sitting with you all in person and have 70 of us piled into the temple? Of course. But if I focus on the craving and desire to want that to happen, then that's where the suffering comes in. That's where the dukkha comes in. If I focus on the craving and desire to, be there on a Saturday morning and watch all of you walk up and find your favorite seat and knock shoes off the shoe rack and leave the door and the bathroom open, if I focus on all those things, then you get frustrated. So, but if I focus on, wow, this is really cool, I get to sit here and share meditation with you all and explore Dharma, and know that you're sitting here around the world, to know that Benton, I think you're in the Bay Area, I don't know if you're still there, but that you can be remote there. And I think if someone like Samir, who's out on the East Coast and can join us, and someone like Michelle, who I think's in Greece, so a lot of these people wouldn't be able to be with us right now if we were sitting there in Dharma Bum Temple. So always trying to find a positive in a situation that is often uncomfortable or unpleasant. So would you please speak on solitude? Not looking for anything specific, but just curious about your thoughts. Yeah, I think, solitude, that there's immediately right now, just all these things firing in my brain. And like anything, ask me a question about something or to speak on something, it'll be different every time. But what was I just saw? And I'm not a huge fan of like cheesy Buddhist memes. I'm really not, because God knows they're out there. My favorite one is the one with the Buddha, and that's why we made a bumper sticker out of it. The one with the Buddha that says, "Pretty sure I didn't say that." That's my favorite. But I did see one this morning that I thought was really cool, and I think I shared it. Let me see. I'm really bad at remembering little quotes and things like that. But it was, maybe I didn't, or if I did, I just can't see it. I think it was something, Maurice, you might have even seen it. I don't know why I'm not seeing it right now, but I'm pretty sure it was an image with the Buddha and the sun. And I think it said something like, the sun is always alone, but it still shines. Even if that's not what it said, we'll go with that, because that really works here with what I'm going to say on solitude. But solitude is incredibly important for spiritual practice. There's a lot of stories of great Zen masters, or a lot in the Tibetan tradition also as well, where, the great master or the great Zen teacher would go live in solitude in a cave for 3 years at a time or 8 years at a time. And, we don't even like being alone for 24 hours. We often, and, you can all apply this to your life, whatever, in whatever ways. I just make stuff up as I go. But we need constant attention. We need constant, instant gratification and acknowledgement. And we constantly have these electronics in our hands, the phones and the social media and the TVs and these, the Netflix and the Amazon Prime and text messages, Facebook messages, emails, phone calls. I mean, we are like constant seeking, craving, needing attention. And when we are in that place, which is where we spend so much of our time, it's really hard to, I think, cultivate deep spiritual practice when we're constantly seeking something from outside of ourselves. And yeah, external validation, exactly. We're constantly seeking these things. And so solitude is just dropping all of that. And that's why retreats are so important. For us, even Dharma Bum Temple is a simple example. We do a 4-hour, a half day, we call it, of silence. And that is really beautiful for some, but it's incredibly difficult for so many people just to spend 4 hours silently. And you're not even alone. You're sitting there with a bunch of other people, or you're walking with a bunch of other people in meditation, or you're cleaning with a bunch of other people. But when you're silent, you're stuck with your own thoughts. And that's just 4 hours. I love bringing the college kids, to the temple for the first time. And it's for many of them, the first meditation or they've ever done, or the first retreat they've ever done. We started at the beginning of the semester. And all of a sudden, we've just locked them in the Dharma Bum Temple. Not really. They can get out if there's a fire. But we've brought them into the temple, and for 4 hours, they're stuck in silence. And it's absolute torture for many of them. Now, it's beautiful as well. But when you are stuck in isolation or solitude, we're left with ourselves. And ourselves is the one thing that we're trying to run away from. And ourself is also the one thing that brings us so much pain. But at the same time, that's where the Buddha taught about understanding that sense of self is an illusion. That self that brings you so much pain is just a story. It's a story about all the things you don't like or that didn't go the way you wanted it to. And so if we had a tragic event happen in our life, then we tell that story to ourselves over and over and over again. And then we use that story as part of a way of defining who we are. My name is this, and I had this tragic or traumatic event happen to me. Now, this doesn't mean that the tragic or traumatic event didn't happen. But when we spend our entire life identifying ourselves as this person that had this trauma, then we live it over and over and over again. And we constantly tell that story. And when we tell that story, of course, we don't feel well. Now, abandoning the story, abandoning the sense of self, for me, is recognizing that we have an entire life's worth of experience that fill our days. And can we experience each moment, good or bad? Again, this is where the Buddha taught about, no, it's not good or bad or right or wrong. It's moment to moment experience based on what is the intention. Can we go through our lives and experience things as they happen and continue to just be somewhat unmoved by them? And that might sound, harsh, or that you don't care. It doesn't mean you don't care. It just means that you don't let the occurrences in your life completely determine your emotional state. So again, back to your question on solitude, which kind of got me on that rant, is that when you're in solitude, 4 hours is tough for you. Imagine 4 days. If 4 days is tough for you, imagine 4 weeks. 4 weeks, imagine 4 months. 4 months, imagine 4 years. One of my favorite Buddhist quotes is, you must get to know the self before you get rid of the self. That's really Dogen's teaching, the great Zen master, where you have to get to know, what is that ego? What is that self? What is that story? Pay attention to it, and then realize it's just a story and abandon it. So these are moments where we have tremendous amount of solitude, opportunities for tremendous amount of solitude and isolation. But because our mind might be telling us, well, I'm forced to be in solitude right now. So a lot of people are alone right now, but not by choice. A lot of people are alone right now because they can't travel somewhere, they can't go see people, they can't do something. So this kind of forced alone time makes it tough. Whereas if you chose to spend time alone, you might appreciate it. Many of you know Ken Small. He does our Zen classes at Temple. He had some health issues over the last few years and dealing a lot with vertigo. And so when it was early on, when it was really bad, and he really just couldn't go outside, couldn't be in sunlight, it wasn't safe, dizzy. So he was home inside his little space a lot. And he just kind of said, it's like my own little retreat. So he spent months and months and months going nowhere. But he treated it like an incredible opportunity for a retreat. So it's really our mindset. So I'm a big fan of solitude. Just some thoughts. All right. When someone is seemingly obsessed with being distracted, social media, fixing things, cleaning things, etc., to the point it's hindering relationships, how do you suggest change point? How do you suggest change, point out impact? Yeah, that's tough. This is hard because, and Amy, you've heard me enough to know that I very rarely, if I ever say, when I talk about how to get others to do something, I always say you can't. So often, and I'll come back to your question, but often people will say, how do I get someone into Buddhism, or how do I get someone into meditation? And I say, you can't, you don't. You practice, you go to your classes, you do what you want, you learn, you study, you integrate it into your lives. If other people ask you, what you're doing or why you're calmer or happier, you can share it with them. But Buddhism meditation is not this thing where you're trying to like convert people or get other people into it. I know you know this. I'm just starting here for anyone. So there's this idea that this practice is for us. Now, your question around how do we get someone else to recognize something about them, that's really difficult to do. But I've found that with this practice, and we look at morality, we look at honesty, I think these things are important, that all you can do is really point out to people what you are observing. So if this is someone you know and love, or a family member, a friend, or whatever it might be, you can simply point out to somebody, hey, maybe this is impacting your relationship. But that's about all you can do in most cases. When we have things that are hindering our lives and people point it out to us, we don't love hearing it, right? Nobody wants to be told they're a greedy, angry person. And often, very often that's what we need to be told. So it really just depends on the situation, but you can point out to people, hey, your obsession with social media and all these other things is really hindering your relationship. And then after that, I kind of fall back onto the Buddhist teachings that we all have our own karmic path, right? I was kind of thinking about this morning, but this idea that people say we're all one. I mean, from a Buddhist lens, I don't see things that way. I see things that we all have individual karma. We have individual consciousness. This individual karma is part of a larger group karma. And this individual consciousness is part of a larger consciousness, but we're not all the same. We have our own journeys, our own experiences, and our own paths. And so when it comes to getting others to do something on their path, that's really difficult. It's that expression, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make the horse drink. It's so true. You can point things out, but this question comes up a lot in the recovery environments where people have loved ones who have, battle addictions, and, use the word obsession, could be addictions, but how do I get someone else to stay clean or sober? And every person has to make their own choice. So I think we can model. I saw another. It was a cute little comic, and it was a parent with a child and a parent with a child, and it just said, and the first child was reading a book, and the parent with that child was reading a book. The second parent was staring at their phone, and the child with that parent was staring at their phone. So you're looking at four people: child, adult, two staring at phones, two staring at books. And the one with the phone asked the other parent, how do you get your child to read books? So it really was a matter of just modeling the behavior that they were desiring. But also different examples when you're dealing with children versus dealing with, say, grown adults. But I don't know if that's helpful at all. I don't think I really gave you an answer or solution other than sometimes surrendering control and recognizing that you can't control anything or anyone. So you're welcome, Maurice. Yeah, I could have just said that, Amy. Do you just let them be on their journey? Yes. Also, there's a question above Benton's. Oh, thank you. I missed that. What is the karma of generosity? Great question, and I'll close on this. Yeah, I'm glad, Amy. Hopefully that's helpful. But it really is. They are on their own journey. The part where we come into play is if that journey impacts us, then we have decisions to make about us as well. So, people ask a lot about unhealthy relationships. It's the Buddhist thing is not to stay there being abused physically, mentally, emotionally in an unhealthy relationship. The practice of wisdom comes in that says, look, this person has their own journey, their own karma, but I'm going to remove myself from it. So everyone is on their own journey, and we have to look at how it impacts us as well. And we can make changes in our lives, but I don't think it's helpful to expect others to change just because we want them to. If they do, great. But all right. So the last question: what is the karma of generosity? So again, I'll close with this thought that the most important piece to overcoming suffering, the Buddha taught, is generosity. Quick overview for those who've never heard it: Four Noble Truths. The first thing the Buddha said is life is suffering. The second thing he says is the cause of suffering: greed, anger, ignorance. Those are the three poisons. The third thing the Buddha said is there's an ending to suffering. This is nirvana, liberation, freedom from suffering. And the fourth is the path that leads to the ending of suffering. And this is the Eightfold Path. Having the correct views, thoughts, speech, action, livelihood, effort, mindfulness, and concentration. This is all available on Google. I just wanted to run through it quickly to point out, back to your question on the generosity of karma, dukkha, the cause of our suffering, or dukkha, which is our suffering, the cause of it is the second noble truth: greed, anger, ignorance. You overcome greed with the practice of generosity. So when the Buddha explored suffering, the number one most important thing that the Buddha taught to overcome suffering is the practice of generosity. Why? Because that forces us to give. Now, he said true generosity comes from three factors. I talked about this, I think, last week, but do you feel pleasant before, pleasant during, and pleasant after? Right? Often we give, but we're giving out of obligation, or we're giving out of guilt, or we're giving out of whatever the emotion might be. But true generosity, dana is the word, is to give when you feel pleasant before, pleasant during, and pleasant after. This is the true meaning of giving from the Buddhist teachings, right? The Buddha was also very clear to the monks and nuns to not teach generosity until after people had given, because he didn't want them to use the beauty of generosity as a way to manipulate people into giving, right? When it comes to the karma of generosity, there are very specific teachings which are quite interesting on karma and the benefits of giving, which has a lot to do with what we have or don't have. So and I'm not someone who studies word for word the Pali Canon, so I'll never quote stuff from there. But there's teachings very specifically around, for example, the one who has tremendous wealth giving versus the one who has very little wealth and giving. So the less we have, there's greater benefit in giving than for someone who has a lot and maybe gives a little, because we are giving more than what we can actually maybe be comfortable with or okay with. And I want to be very clear that I've never seen giving with respect to the amounts of things. More about how difficult is it for us to give and what's in our heart and minds when we give. A lot of people tie giving to money. It's really not. It's giving people hugs, giving people smiles, giving people attention. Use that example with a smile. If you're having a terrible day, if you're just in a great mood, for you to smile at somebody is really easy, right? You're having a wonderful day. Someone passes you and you want to smile and say hello. That's really simple for you. So you've given them a smile. Some positive karmic points, right? But let's say you're having a terrible day and you're just in the worst mood and you're depressed and you're angry and whatever happened that day, and somebody walks by and they really need a smile. And it's really hard for you to give a smile, but you do because you know that that smile is going to change their life. And you know that that smile is going to brighten their day. So somehow in your misery, you're able to cultivate a very honest, true smile because you know it's what they need. That's a lot of really good karma right there. So it's a brief example, but I think important to understand that what frees us from the cycle of suffering is the practice of generosity, compassion, and wisdom. So, all right. So with that, we'll close. Good questions. We'll go ahead and join palms. May the benefit of this practice be shared with all beings in all directions. May all be at peace. May all be free from suffering. May any merit gained from this practice be transferred to Max during his time of rebirth and to his family and friends who suffer at this time. So a few quick announcements before you all head out. Thanks for being here. My name is Jeff. I'm a Dharma bum. We opened up the temple 14 years ago to bring Buddhist practice and meditation to those who show up. Those of us who lead, we're not monks and nuns and gurus or masters or teachers or anything like that. We're just practitioners. We do our best to take our understanding of Buddhist teachings and put it into terms that hopefully make sense to those who show up. We closed March 12th due to the pandemic. We'll continue to remain closed until we feel it's safe to open. So we've moved everything we do online. Majority of our classes, you can go to the website, dharmabums.org, and go on the schedule. You'll see whether Zoom or YouTube. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday nights, and Saturdays we do on YouTube. Everything else is on Zoom. College group, teenage group, recovery sangha, morning meditation Monday through Friday, family group, which is on hold. Hopefully we'll start up again in the new year. But always something to join. So, and to check out. Everything we do is free, always has been, always will be. Please stay home as much as possible. Wear a mask. It's a great, I think, Buddhist practice to not put ourselves in a situation to potentially get others sick. So thank you for being here. If I never see you again, think good thoughts, speak good words, do good deeds. And I wish you well.